Hi, everyone. It's time for another episode of Rebecca and Rebecca. Welcome to January 2024. My name is Rebecca Yager, coming to you from a chilly Dallas, Texas, but even colder, not cold in heart, is my partner, Rebecca Reed from very cold Indiana. Hey, Rebecca.
Hi, how are you?
Well, warmer than you are, apparently. So,
Yeah.
anyway, we are so excited. Can't tell you, Rebecca and I have been talking about this for months to have our guest author here today, and that is the wonderful and fabulous Colleen Coble. Colleen, how are you?
I am great. It's good to be with you guys. You're one of my favorite people, so I would
We
do
paid
just
her to
about
say
anything for you, you know.
that. All right, Colleen, your check's in the mail. Thanks for saying that. Anyway, Rebecca, let's tell folks a little bit about Colleen, and then we'll dive into our conversation with her.
Okay. Best-selling romantic suspense author Colleen Coble's novels have won or finaled in awards ranging from the Best Books of Indiana, the ACFW Carroll Award, the Romance Writers of America Rita, the Holt Medallion, the Daphne du Maurier, National Reader's Choice, and the Bookseller's Best. She has over 5 million books in print, and her books have been on the USA Today bestseller list, the ECPA, CBA, Publishers Weekly, and Amazon bestseller lists. She writes romantic mysteries because she loves to see justice prevail. Colleen is CEO of American Christian Fiction Writers. She lives with her husband, Dave, in Indiana.
Yay.
All right.
And again, welcome, Colleen. And
Thanks
that's a
so
lot
much.
of
And
awards.
I'm in sunny Arizona right now, so
Yeah.
we venture out here with our daughter and her family. So we're out of that freeze. You guys are
You're
having.
much warmer than both of us
That's
right
right.
now. And yeah, we know you divide your time between Arizona and Indiana. You spend a lot of time on social media. You're one of the most open and accessible authors. I think that's out there, which makes you so much fun. I'm sure your readers just love that, hearing about
I love
you.
hearing from readers. As you know, I am an extrovert, so the worst part of the writing process is being stuck in the house and not being able to talk to anyone. So, social media kind of fills that gap a little.
There you go. One of the things I just learned about you, and as I said, spoiler alert, that you and I have known each other a long time through the business end of American Christian Fiction Writers, which all three of us, let's put it all out there, are involved in, because Rebecca is the local chapter, Indiana chapter president, and of course, Colleen, your CEO, as we mentioned in your bio, and you thankfully employ me. So there, but
We kind of came to you on crawling knees, begging.
well, very flattered and so glad to be part of the organization. All right, so part of our podcast is for writers as well as readers. So for the writers in the group, ACFW.com, American Christian Fiction Writers, we're trying to encourage and train up writers to learn their craft so we can bring readers more wonderful Christian fiction books. So,
That's right.
all right, there's our plug. Oh, and if you see in the background on Rebecca's screen, her dog, that's Ziva,
Yep,
is
Ziva's here.
hiding back there. Ziva is
Oh,
always a
there he
part of
is.
our
Oh, he's so
conversation.
cute. I should have brought Mouse in here. Kara's got a golden retriever of
Oh,
English
that would have been
gold.
fun.
He's white.
All right, let's get to business here. Colleen, as I started out saying, I've known you for a long time, but learned something new about you about being a color consultant
Yes.
that you used to tell about. Yeah, okay, you and I are gonna have to talk because I never know if I'm wearing the right colors.
I look at that automatically. I can't help it. I had too much training to do it, and so I automatically will see somebody with red hair that shouldn't have red hair because they dyed their red hair. Or blonde hair. That's a real common one. And people think, oh, I should go blonde since I've gotten older. No, not probably not. It's going to clash with your skin tone. Don't do it, girls.
No, I went blonde once and it was not good. I look at the
Yeah.
pictures and what was I thinking?
I myself love red hair. I would love to be a redhead, but God didn't make me that way. God's the ultimate artist, and he puts our hair, eye color, skin color together, and he knows what he was doing.
Oh, I like that. God is the ultimate artist.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is.
I have kids, because I'm a teacher, so I see kids that dye their hair like 50
Oh,
different
yes.
colors in the course of a month, and then they have to like bleach it because they've got so many colors and they don't even know what color their hair really is. And I told them, I'm 58 years old and I've never colored my hair, and they can't understand. They don't understand it. They don't get it. And I said, if I ever color my hair, I'm going to make it blue.
Well, that
Then
would
you'll know.
probably be, not a bad color, other than it's not a natural color, but at least it would go with the majority of people's skin tones. But blue, most of us have a blue undertone in our skin.
Yeah,
The majority
that's what I told them. I said, I'm just going to make it blue. And then,
Yeah.
then you'll know that I've now colored my hair.
I don't color my hair either. I think I did once when I was in my 20s. I put some henna on it, but I'm going to be 72 on Friday, so this is all natural. I got a little tiny bit of gray, but not.
I've got more gray than you.
Yeah,
keep it, Becky. Keep it.
I am. I'm done dying. I'm done. So this is it. So, okay, you were a color consultant, but you actually wanted to be a writer since you were a kid, first grade?
Yeah. Wrote my first story in first grade, and the teacher praised it. And I thought, wow, maybe you can have a book in the library someday. That's all I wanted. One book in a library somewhere. And it would be okay if I was the one who donated it, as long as people were reading it. And so that thrills me when I hear from people that say they got my book in a library, because I've found all of the writers that I automatically buy in a library. I think libraries are wonderful, and I fully support them. And, don't ever be afraid to email me and say, hey, I just read your book from the library. That's great, because I visit libraries all the time, and libraries are my favorite place.
Absolutely. Well, again, you can discover writers, and then you can find more of their books and more.
Right.
I know libraries.
And when I that dream, was planted early, that seed. And I was good all through high school and loved literature and was very good in English. And I really always thought maybe someday I would write, but that dream kind of went underground when I got married at 19, had our first child at 21. And people of my era, in particular, women of my era, we kind of push our own dreams aside and we take care of our families. That's what I did. But that once in a while, I'd take that dream off and blow the dust off of it and think someday. And then I had a younger brother, Randy. He was the oldest of my three younger brothers. And Becky, I know you know the story. And I got a call from my brother Rick about 10 o'clock one night, 10:30, 11. I mean, it was kind of late. The kids had gone to bed. And I could tell from his tone of voice something was wrong. And he just said Randy had been electrocuted. And I couldn't go to the, electrocution, of course, means death, but I didn't think of it that way. I just thought he was in the hospital somewhere. But Randy had a lightning storm had blown up down the road, and the farmer yelled for Randy to get out of the grain bin. And when he didn't answer, he went into the grain bin, and the lightning had struck down the road, come through the electrical lines, through that welder he was using, and he was instantly gone. And he had a lot of dreams that he was only 37, I was 38. And that was kind of a kick in the pants that I was ever going to follow my dream. When should I, there is no perfect time, and none of us know how long we have. And so as part of the grieving process, I went out to Wyoming, where Randy had lived for about 3 years with his family before he moved back to Wabash, Indiana, where we're from. And standing on the parade ground at Fort Laramie, that first idea just dropped into my head. And I went home and I wrote it. It took a year to write that first book. I thought there would be a bidding war. Movie producers were going to be coming after this book. Yeah, not so much. Not so much. It took 6 years to sell that thing, because I kept reworking it and sending it out. And I always tell people, don't make that mistake. Move on to the next book, because you learn to write by writing. There's no substitute for it. You can't study your way through it. You can't brainstorm your way through it. You can't do anything through it. You must write to learn to write. And if I had done that, I don't think it would have taken me 6 more years to sell it if I just moved on. So don't do that. Don't do that.
No, I think that's such sound advice, because the more you write, you do get better at it. It's like with anything you do,
And that's the other really great thing about writing, is you never arrive, because there's always something you can learn to do better. You can, you can work on. And it's fun. I absolutely adore the process, the writing process. There's no part of it really I don't like. I like the connecting with readers. I like everything about it.
Well, it is hard when you lose a sibling, but what an inspiration he turned out to be, and look what you've
Yeah,
accomplished with
this
that
is true.
dream, and didn't waste any more time with that. You love all parts of the writing process, but I do believe you're an editor, editing at heart. You love when you get your edits back from.
Right now, I'm haunting the inbox, waiting for the substantive edit letter from Amy and Julie to arrive for the next book with my friend Rick Acker. And Rick and he laughs because I literally could do a dance when that letter comes. That's my favorite part of everything, is because I suddenly have some feedback. And up until then, I kind of feel like I'm an ox pulling a big old ladder up the mountain, and on the other side of that mountain, I know that there's a town over there. I can kind of make out the church steeple. I can kind of see, a few of the shapes of the roofs and stuff. But I get that editorial letter, and all of a sudden I'm on the top of the hill, trotting down toward the town. There's another oxen over here beside me helping pull the wagon. And I can make out things like flower boxes. And I know this is a silly analogy, but that's how how it feels. Everything becomes clearer, and I can see, what I did that was right and what I did that needs a little fixing up and a little bit of paint on it. And I get to work doing that.
And again, like you say, you never arrive at something. And Rebecca and I were just kind of talking about this before we went on air, because she's working on one of her books right now, and I'm reading, and she's getting the feedback, which is so critical, that lets you know, are you going in the right direction, and how can you see the flower boxes clearer?
Now, do you guys edit each other chapter by chapter? Do you read the whole thing for one another? How do you do? It sounds like you're kind of critique partners, or
Just started doing that, reading each other.
Yes, yeah. I had written this story for NaNoWriMo this past year, and I got a contract for it, but I have to cut it down from
that's so exciting.
It's like
Well,
70,000.
my first book had to be cut down too, so don't be discouraged at that. My first book was 75,000, I think, at the time, and I had to cut it for Barbara down to 50,000 words. But
I have to go to 55. So yeah, it's about the
it's
same.
worth it. Do it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm working on, and I sent it to her because I knew she could help me find places that I could cut out, and then
that way. Yeah.
Denise Hunter and I have been critique partners for a quarter of a century. That's hard to believe, isn't it?
Because Denise especially looks like she's 25. I mean,
I know. I saw a picture. She's on a cruise right now, and she was on Facebook with a dolphin named Romeo, and she had her hair in braids, and I said, you look about 12, girl.
Yeah. Wow.
That kind of brings me though back to like groups like ACFW, and there are other writing groups too, but you talk about that level, because what started as critique partners, you and Denise, and I know it was Diane and
Diane and Kristen,
Diane Hunt
Diane
and
Billerbeck,
Kristen, and y'all were
Diane Hunt and Kristen Billerbeck and Denise.
the group, and Rebecca and I are starting to feed, but it's more, the writing process is lonely. We know that, very solitary. So to have the group and have the connection, but that helps us connect to readers or find readers through others, but what we get from each other.
Someone will automatically wants your success as well. That's huge, to have other people that care about your success and want to help you.
That cheer you on. We all want each other to succeed.
Yeah,
and the contests too. For like me, as an unpublished writer, entering the contest, that was the first time I ever got feedback for my very first novel, and that was back when I had no idea what POV meant. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to jump around between all the different people in the scene and all of those things. So that was my first time learning anything about any of those things. So I credit, Genesis and First Impressions, and for that knowledge, and that's basic, and then I was able to plug in and get a lot more out of that, after that. But it is nice to have a group of people who will cheer when you get a success. So
absolutely. So they're worth seeking out. And the contest just opened, the Carols and the Genesis just opened for ACFW. So if you're watching this out there and you're needing some feedback, or you're ready to start entering some contests, check it out, because they're great contests, great judges.
All right. Deadline's March 1st.
Deadline March 1st, says our webmaster.
These things I have to know. All right, Colleen, because I know you are such an extrovert, and every time I see you, it's at conference and you're running around and you never sit still. Yet your favorite place to write is like right where you are right now.
Yeah, in a recliner. Yeah.
I have a hard time
my laptop.
I got a hard time reconciling
and I am in my imaginary world, and there's a lot to be said for that imaginary world that we get to escape to as writers. When my best friend Diane Hunt was dying of ovarian cancer, I was writing The Inn at Ocean's Edge, and that will probably always be a special book to me, because it was a solace, a safe place that I could escape to for a little while to kind of find a little bit of help, so to speak, from what I was having to deal with in real life. And,
right.
So, there's something about writing. I think it makes us more empathetic, even as writers. I know it does as readers, because I've been a reader my whole life. And when you are able to enter someone else's head, you get to experience the same things that they're experiencing. And the great thing about writing fiction is you can deal with things that you're going through in real life in your fiction. You can, it's a place to even make sense of the world for your own self, and hopefully it resonates with your readers. And it always does. Readers can always tell that when you're genuine, when you're, as a writer, you're not fake, and you're who you are, and you connect with your readers through your words on the page.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think it comes through. I think that authenticity has to
that's
show on the
good
page.
word, yeah.
It's not a good story. All right. We're talking a lot, but we got to get to this book right here,
Yes.
which I actually, Colleen, I read on Kindle, and I actually had to have a copy of this in my hands to read this time. It's one of those. In our review, Rebecca and I talked about, and this amazes me that you're a pantser, by the way, that you write by the seat of your pants.
Most people, they're shocked,
But I think about this book, and Rebecca, what did we talk about? All the webs, all the
interconnectedness of all of the different little threads. And there were quite a few characters in here, and they all connected in such an intricate way. And I just really liked that. I'm a fantasy writer at heart. I'm not writing, this book is a contemporary romance that I have, but I love fantasy. And so that interconnectedness really, that excites me. I don't like a book that doesn't have some layers to it. And this book had so many layers to it. I just love it.
When I first started writing, I was writing for Heart Song, and so they were the short romances, 50,000 words or so. But my dream was always to kill people. I can't explain it, I
one of the nicest people in the world just said that.
I grew up
because she wouldn't do it in real life. She had to figure out a way to
do
it.
And I came up with that first proposal for Rock Harbor, and I'd just gotten an agent before that, and she kicked it to the curb for a solid year, saying more layers. I'm thinking, what layers? I don't know. I had to figure it out, because she didn't tell me. She just expected me to know, and I wasn't about to confess that I had no utter idea what I was doing. I figured it out, and
obviously,
so that I love putting those layers in. And the great thing about being a pantser is that you about have to have them connected, because otherwise you never keep the story straight. So, I usually do not know who the villain is. I lay down about 3 possibilities, and then I just see where the story takes me. And then when I figure out who it is that is really the killer, I have to go back and make sure they all fit. But that doesn't take very long. But
that's why we couldn't guess, Rebecca, because we said we each had picked a character in here we thought was a bad guy, and he wasn't.
Right.
You did it
well. We had the same one. Yeah, but I think I knew you were a pantser, because I think I remembered hearing you say that somewhere along the line. But I have also heard other people who write romantic suspense and things that say the same thing, that they don't know, for sure who the villain is until they get 2/3 or 3/4 or even done with the book. So
that's where I am at. Usually at about 3/4 of the way through, I figure it out.
okay.
And then, I go back and make sure it all works, but
Well,
Yeah.
I
we
love
like
it
this
though.
book.
We'll probably talk about this in a little bit, I know, but I've been writing with Rick Acker, who is a fabulous writer, and he's an attorney in the California um, yeah.
Fraud something? What does he do?
Yes, and a fraud division for Attorney General's office, Attorney
There
General's
you go.
office. And he's just had huge success, there. And he has such great ideas and he's a great writer. And he's a plotter and I'm a pantser. So he lays down the plot and then I take us off-roading and he has to readjust, but he's so good natured about it. And so, doesn't mind. And he always says, oh yeah, I can see where that makes the story better. And, so we readjust and we go on and it's work. We call it planting. That's what we've been calling it. So,
Lansing, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well, you do a tiny bit of planting because you like James Scott Bell's knockout novel. You do a little work on that before you start.
Yeah, I love that program. I highly recommend that. But I don't, he's got all this plotting stuff in there with plotting out scenes and, but I use it to get to know my characters at the beginning. And I figure out that mirror moment, that middle moment. And the very first book I did that bit with was The Inn at Ocean's Edge. And I've done it ever since. And it just is so helpful because if you know where that mirror moment is, where your character learns something about themselves that they didn't know, you write to that in the middle, and then you need to write to the ending. And I know my hero and my heroine are going to end up happy. Happy. They're going to have a happily ever after moment. May not know who my villain is, but I do know they're going to end up together. And so then I write toward the end, and it's super helpful. Super helpful. And it really the questions that it asks you as you're getting to know your characters and laying down that background really helps figure out what kind of those layers that you were talking about, Rebecca, that you can put in there that have to do with the past. Because I adore creating a story that has secrets from the past that, alter a person's life today. That's my favorite kind of story to write. And there was that in Fragile Designs too.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's just fun.
With both Carly and Lucas, they had their past and things they were learning about each other as they were figuring out the mysteries of Faberge eggs. Now, you said you've been fascinated with Faberge eggs for quarter
At
century.
least 25 years.
Yeah.
One of my early novels for Barber was called From Russia with Love. And so I was researching, and it was a mail order bride current day type story. So I was researching some stuff about Russia and stumbled across that whole Faberge egg. And I can't believe that I didn't know much about it before then, but I didn't. And so for probably 25 years, I've just been super obsessed and interested in those gorgeous eggs. And there are still some missing. And I was thinking, what would it be like to find one of those eggs? And how would it change your life? Well, it wouldn't necessarily be all for the good, because some people would kill for that much money. I think the last Faberge egg was found, I think in 2017, and if I remember from my research, I believe they estimate that it sold for $33 million. So they're worth a lot of money, be worth a lot more now probably.
It is almost scary to think about if you found one and what to do.
Yep.
It's neat though, too. I loved the way you put the historical details and it was so obvious that you knew a lot about them. But it was really well done because, some people love history and other people not so much. But we talked about this in the review too. It's like there's just the right amount. Like it's just enough to be intriguing, but not, if you don't really like it, it's not like gonna overwhelm you and be like you're not gonna be bored. And you just stuck them in such little detail, little here, little there, and it was really sprinkled through, and it was just really nice.
Oh, good.
Really
I'm glad.
Yeah,
those eggs are just beautiful and unbelievably precious. Something that beautiful is, of course, is going to be worth a lot of money. But it was something to try to write and figure out it really who wanted that the most and how that was all gonna. And really, when I first started out, I really wasn't even thinking that some of the things that happened to her husband might even be implicated. That all came out in the story. So
with Carly's husband. I think one of my favorite parts was Lucas relating to
the
Carly's little
baby,
baby. Was
I
that
love writing
surprising
those
to
scenes.
you? Was that surprising to you as you wrote it? That was that
Yeah,
your
kind
intention?
of. I really didn't kind of until that was a total pantser moment when I was writing that, and she needed to run out and left the baby with him, and she comes back to finding the baby sleeping on his chest, and I was thinking, oh, I just love this so much. So, of course, I
Yeah.
had to continue that trend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially because, you set it up where he didn't even think he liked kids, and then
Yeah,
he
was
didn't know
never planned
anything
to have
about
any.
kids. And yeah, so, and he had, he wasn't like, didn't have even siblings that were like younger or anything like that. So that was really neat. And to see, and it really helped, I think, Becky mentioned this too, that, he was such a kind of closed mouthed character that you really did need that extra something to like get him to like show himself, because without the
Mhm.
baby it would have been hard to get to know him.
Yeah, yeah, and he just loved it. He loved little Noah, and I am a huge kid fan, and I adore babies. If there's a baby in the room, it's got to be in my arms. So, because
Mhm.
I just absolutely love children. So, and whenever I get a chance to put a baby into a story, I will, because and I don't get to do that very often, but it seemed perfect for this story, and setting it up for Carly to be a young widow whose husband never even saw the baby. That it was just kind of poignant and heart tugging to me personally. So that was super fun to write. And my editors absolutely loved this story. And when Amanda got it, she said, "This is your best book yet." So readers seem to really be loving it, which makes me super happy.
Well, we did.
Yeah,
I'm so glad.
we liked it.
We did. And I listened to the audio version because that's kind of, she reads them and I listened to the audio ones, and I thought that your narrator did a really fantastic job
I
on it.
was thrilled to get that narrator. She narrates a lot of books for Lisa Gardner, who's my all. I love Lisa Gardner books. She's in General Market, and absolutely love her books. I read all of them, and she has the most intricate, complicated plots and great characters, and I just love it. And so the fact that I got to have her narrator was like a super big deal to me.
Oh, I kind of love that. I also love that this is kind of an intergenerational story because you've
Mhm.
got Mary, the grandmother, and you've got
Yes.
Carly's sisters, but you've got the grandmother's story, which I'm not going to give any away spoilers, but talk about heart tugging too. Was
No.
Yeah.
a whole other section. And again, the way you wove all this into one cohesive story.
Well, I've been noodling about another kind of story that involved the relationship that, again, I'm not going to spoil it either. But the team at Thomas Delson didn't think it worked quite right in the other idea that I had. The other idea was they didn't think was as good. And so I kind of tabled that um, relationship thing. But then it found its way into this story too. And it worked much better. They were right. It was just, this was definitely the best way to go with that particular story. So
yeah, yeah.
There were a lot of parallels in this story too, and I really liked that. Or almost parallels, with the babies, and then the mystery that we solved with the family and stuff. And I thought that was just really cool how it come together with all these like things that matched up that really had no clue they were going to at the beginning, and then they
I didn't
ended up
either.
right. See, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's cool how that happens, and that's part of the magic of writing too, when that kind of stuff all falls together like
Pulls
that.
together. That's right.
Mhm. So but I did appreciate that. I thought that was just
I'm
really cool.
glad. I'm glad you like that.
Well, I think this is our cue to say, everybody, you got to pick this up so you know what we're talking about. Because we're trying so hard not to give away the spoilers.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
because
out now.
there's plenty of things that could be spoiled in that story, aren't there?
There are,
But
again, the intrigue and the way you wove it together on that. So I think you ought to reward yourself after this interview with some chocolate, because I hear that's your favorite little reward after you write.
It is indeed chocolate. Chocolate will do it every time.
She's happy. All right, tell us more about what's coming next, and that is, you alluded to it previously, you're
Rick Acker,
working
yes.
with Rick Acker.
Our first book together is called What We Hide, and it'll be out in July, early July, July 2nd, I believe. And it is based in Alabama, near the Pelican Harbor series setting. So it's kind of going to interweave with that a little bit. And there's an attorney and his wife who've separated after a tragedy happened to their little girl, and you know how that often drives couples apart. And he buried himself in alcohol, and you know, he just couldn't deal. And they're heading for divorce, and she hasn't seen him in a year, and he shows up wanting a second chance. And at first she turns him down, and but then the next day she's accused of murdering the university president at the university where her family was very involved in. And there's a subplot of the sale of pre-Columbian art out of the so it's kind of got a Indiana Jones-ish sort of thing. And one of my favorite characters is Boo Radley, the alligator that roams around the little pond there at the university. So that's very fun. And writing with Rick has just been an absolute so much fun. So much fun I've ever had writing. We are just having a ball. And we didn't know that his wife was going to be like the third part of the, you know, like a trio, because she's a great editor and she has great ideas. And so we kind of brainstorm together, and you know, we have great fun. And so we were working on the second book in the series. It's called the Tupelo Grove series. And Rick came up with this great idea about a young attorney, widowed attorney. It was just the topic. I think I was murdered. We kind of went in a different direction than what he originally had. So we made her a widow, but she was she has AI is like all the rage. And this tech startup that she is involved with in Silicon Valley had an AI app for a phone, and you load all of the emails and all the social media and all the texts of the person that you want to converse with into it. And then you can talk to them like they're real. And she did this for her husband's, her best friend did it for her, actually, who's the product manager. And so she's chatting away with Jason, you know, she's lonely. He's been dead a year. And she, at one point she says, "Tell me something I don't know." And the app says, "I think I was murdered." And so, yeah. So there's a true piece of history that weaves its way through, because there's a man who hid USB drives with Bitcoin on them, and people have looked for them and they've never found them. But so there's this Bitcoin treasure hunt kind of thing going on with these little plastic eggs with a USB thing in them. So anyway, it was great fun to write. We set it in Northern California in the Redwoods, in a little town that we call North Haven. That's kind of the Norwegian version of Rock Harbor. And so her grandmother has a little shop that sells heart-shaped waffles, Scandinavian, you know, the Norwegian waffles with whipped cream and all of that. And so it's a very charming little town, and it's a perfect setting. So we just had most fun with that, and we just turned that in, and that's what we're getting back today. We're getting edits back today on that. So
that's why you're stocking your mailbox.
That's why I'm stocking the mailbox. Yes,
inbox. Well, gosh, well,
Rick and I, like I said, are just having so much fun doing it. It was just a match made in heaven, and how we came to this is interesting too. And let me just throw that in real quickly.
Please.
I had about 2 years ago, I've known Rick for a long time, and he's on the ACFW board with me. And I got this message from him. I don't know, it's about 10 o'clock at night, maybe 9. And he said, "My Pokemon Go app suggested you as a friend. Are you playing Pokemon Go?" And I said, "Well, yes, my grandsons dragged me into this." And so we formed this little Pokemon Go group on texting. And so it's Kara and her boys, and me, and my brother Dave, and my son Dave, and we all played Pokemon Go. And he has had the most patience and so kind with all of us newbies. And I got to know him at a different level. And so I just had this harebrained idea and I texted him one night and I said, what would you think of us writing together? And he said, well, I've never thought about it, but it's an interesting idea. And so that's how it all started. So
You never know, and this series sounds fabulous and
yeah,
fun ideas. So the first book is What We Hide, coming
What
out.
We Hide. And the second book is called I Think I Was Murdered. And then there's going to be a total of 3 books in the Tupelo Grove series. And we're working on that one now. So the second one in that series. So we're just plowing through them. I mean, it's been super fun.
Oh my gosh, so much to look forward to here. So
Yeah.
that's it. Well, meanwhile, while we wait till July, everyone pick out Fragile Designs. I've held that up enough. Have I I've done good. Anyway, What We Hide is coming up. Colleen, we are just ecstatic that you were here today. And we
Well,
thank you.
thank you so much for having me. It's been great fun chatting with you girls, Rebecca and Rebecca. Of course, I call
Yes,
you Becky, but
I know. But in the writing world, I'm Rebecca.
yeah, yeah, I
My mother
know.
would be proud and do that. All right. Well, coming up, in February, we're going to have a little Valentine's love for you. We are going to be talking with Rachel D. Russell about her book, It's Your Love. So we need a little contemporary romance after all this intrigue with Colleen. And then in March, we're doing, I think this is our first ever romantic space opera with E.A. Hendricks called Suspended in the Stars. We'll be talking with Emily in March. So there's lots coming up, lots of different genres. But again, for right now, read Colleen Coble and look for What We Hide with Rick Acker in July, but pick up Fragile Designs right now because it's out and enjoy the read. Anyway, thanks everyone for being here, and I guess we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye.